In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the WebEx Training Center account that's included with your subscription to iCohere. Please note that there is a separate training on the Meetings module that shows you how to set up your WebEx sessions. When you first open the session, you will see your name in the Panelist field on the right and see that you are the host of the session. You will also have the presenter ball, indicating that you are the active presenter. In WebEx Training Center, there are two categories of participants: Panelists and Attendees. The host is a panelist who is the main facilitator of your session. The host starts the cloud recording and has special functions such as being able to invite people to the session and being able to end the session for everyone. The host can also pass the presenter ball at any time. The active presenter is the one that everyone follows along with and can perform special functions such as setting attendee privileges, session options, opening polls, streaming videos, and screen sharing. We'll explore these roles in more detail soon. After signing into the session, you will see an audio conference box allowing you to connect your audio via telephone or computer. If for some reason this box is closed, you can always reopen it from either the top menu by choosing Audio, then Audio Conference, or using the Audio button on the right. Please note that for our tutorial video, we are using WebEx on a PC. The Webex interface on a Mac looks slightly different, and some options are in different locations. If you use your phone for audio, you will input the phone number, then access code, and finally your attendee ID. The attendee ID is not required to connect your audio. However, it is required to pair your call-in device with your name in the session. It is important that presenters properly connect their device so that it shows up next to their name. If you connect via computer, you can simply click the button and all the pairing is done for you. Here's an example of the two types of audio connection. If you connect your computer for audio, you might find it is not using the appropriate speaker or microphone. To change this, you can choose Speaker Microphone Test from the audio menu at the top, or Test Speaker Microphone from the Audio Conference page. From here, you can choose another available device from the drop-downs. You can also adjust the microphone volume. It's important to note that while you are on the Speaker Microphone Test screen, no one in the session will be able to hear you. Click OK to confirm your choice and return to the session. You'll notice that you can now mute your device by clicking the microphone with a slash through it to the right of your name. We've already done this. It's very helpful to use the mute feature in WebEx and not on your device, so that everyone can see that you're on mute. You know you're muted when a red X appears next to your device. Now that we've connected our audio, let's set up the attendee privileges for the session. The first thing that is normally done is to go to the participant drop-down and choose Mute on Entry. This means that anyone who enters the session as an attendee will be automatically muted once they connect their audio, and they will be unable to unmute themselves. However, the host or presenter can unmute them. This Mute on Entry option can be set by either the host or the presenter. Next, you can set your general attendee privileges from this same Participants drop-down menu by choosing Assign Privileges. Note that only the active presenter can adjust attendee privileges. In many cases, the host of the session will change these settings before handing the ball to the main presenter. Once you choose Assign Privileges, a page opens with different choices to customize the attendee experience. You'll notice that WebEx has set some defaults. Let's explore these now. Please keep in mind that these settings relate to attendees and not panelists. Document relates to files uploaded into the session and whether an attendee can choose to save, print, or request to annotate. These settings are off by default and not normally used. Number of attendees and attendee list will allow the attendees to see each other in the session. In most cases, this is turned on for the live session. If you're concerned with privacy, you can always hide the attendee list from the recording. Any document, thumbnails, and any page would allow the attendees to move between files you've uploaded and click through them without waiting for the presenter. So these three settings are normally off. Send video allows attendees to share their webcam video. If mute on entry is active, this will not be available to them while muted. However, even if your attendees aren't going to speak, it's a good idea to turn this off, just in case. Control shared applications is an advanced feature that panelists might use to share control with the presenter for screen share. Attendees shouldn't need this feature, so it's a good one to uncheck. Communications allows you control over how attendees can interact with panelists and other attendees in the session. By default, this is set to only allow attendees to chat to the panelists. If you select all attendees, you can have a more interactive session. This option will reveal two more choices in the chat area: all attendees and all participants chat. All participants goes out to everyone in the session, whereas all attendees only goes to the attendees. So it's good to instruct the attendees to choose all participants. And another thing to keep in mind is that only chat sent to all participants is saved in the transcript and recording. And you can always choose to hide the chat from your recording, just like you can hide the attendee list. Finally, there is the option to allow for breakout sessions with your attendees. Breakout sessions are an advanced feature of WebEx Training Center, which we will explore in a separate tutorial video. Now that you've set your attendee privileges, you can click OK. It's good practice to double check that you selected mute on entry and that the attendee privileges are the way you want them. One quick tip about chat is that it can sometimes be difficult to select an individual person from a long list of participants. You can always right-click on the person's name who you want to send a private message to, and then select to chat out to them. Next, you might want to decide which features are available in your session. If you are using a PC, you can choose Session from the top menu and then Session Options. These choices affect everyone, and this is another option that only the active presenter can manage, so the host may set these up prior to passing the ball to the main presenter. Here you can turn off specific features of your session. Chat reveals or hides the chat option from the session. If you remove it, panelists and attendees won't be able to use the chat feature at all. Q&A reveals or hides the Q&A box. This feature allows attendees to send in questions to panelists via a separate window from chat. In most cases, it is helpful to turn this feature off and just use the chat feature, as it could overcomplicate the session. If you want to have attendees send in their questions directly to the panelists, you can always request that they do this, instead of sending it to all participants. Feedback relates to the emoticons and whether they are available or not during your session. Video allows you to turn off the ability for anyone to share their webcam. If you aren't going to use webcams in your session, it is recommended to remove this so that someone doesn't accidentally click theirs. Attention tracking will show a red exclamation point by the name of any attendee who doesn't have their WebEx window as their active window on their computer. This is only visible to panelists. Please keep in mind that this feature may indicate an attendee isn't paying attention when they actually are. For instance, they might not have the window active but be listening, or they might be taking notes on a document in front of WebEx and still viewing the session. Now that we've made our choices, let's click OK. And we can always double check to make sure that we have the right settings enabled. During the session, the host can pass the presenter ball a few different ways, including dragging and dropping it to another participant, or right-clicking and changing the person's role to presenter. The host can also make attendees panelists and panelists attendees. The active presenter can pass the ball, but cannot take it back. In some sessions, you might have 2 or more presenters that will pass the ball back and forth between them. Alternatively, one person can keep the ball the whole time. One important thing to keep in mind is that when the ball is passed, the person will be taken off mute if they are muted. So it's important for your speakers to always double check that they are on mute with an X when they shouldn't be sending audio, and off mute with no X when they should be sending audio. One more important note on muting is that the other panelists in your session have panelist privilege to mute and unmute themselves. The host cannot mute other panelists unless they are first made attendees, which could disrupt the session. This is why it's so important to introduce muting and remind panelists on how to do it so that they don't accidentally disrupt the session. Now let's explore sharing your webcam. A video camera icon appears to the right of your name. If you click this icon, Webex will detect any webcam you have on your computer and cast your video. If you'd like to see what you look like first, you can click the gear at the upper right before casting your video. Using the gear icon, you can also switch between any available webcams on your computer. This is helpful if Webex defaulted to the wrong one. Some webcams offer advanced options. These options may improve the way your webcam performs. It is important to keep in mind that the use of a webcam requires more internet bandwidth and should be done on a strong connection. It is also recommended to be plugged into your internet and not using wireless. Once webcam videos are being cast, Webex will switch between people when it detects them speaking for a few seconds. The host or the presenter can lock the camera on a specific participant by choosing the lock icon at the bottom left of the video box, and then selecting which person to keep on camera. If you'd like to view a bigger video, you can click the expand option at the top right. Notice that this hides the general session from view. Please note that Webex only records a small version of the webcam video for your archive. Now let's talk about polling. Both the host and presenter of the session can access the polling panel by choosing the option at the top right. You might need to expand the list by clicking the down arrow. Note that on a Mac, these panels are listed at the bottom of this side of the screen. Once you open the polling panel, you'll see that you are given the first poll automatically. If you'd like to make additional polls, you can click the New Poll button. You can also rename polls by double-clicking on them. To create a poll, select the desired layout and then click New. You can then type your question and hit Enter to add your responses. You can resort and also edit them by double-clicking or highlighting one and clicking the Edit pencil. You can also have multiple questions on the same poll. Once you've added all your questions, click Options at the bottom to set the poll time. It's normally good to give attendees at least 30 seconds. Now that your poll has been created, you can always save it to your computer and then load it into future sessions. It can also be opened by the presenter. The host can work on polls, but not open them. If you have a presenter that isn't comfortable opening polls, you can always retrieve the ball at a predetermined time and open it for them. The presenter who opens the poll will see a tab indicating who hasn't responded, is currently responding, and has already responded. The presenter can choose to close the poll early, but anyone who is currently responding will be given around 20 seconds to complete their responses. Here's what it looks like for an attendee responding. Once the results are in, you can always choose to share them with attendees by choosing Poll Results. And now we're ready to look at sharing content in WebEx. To share content, choose the Share drop-down on the top menu. Because we are the current presenter, we see the 4 screen share options. Let's go over these first. My Desktop hides WebEx and starts a screen share of everything running on your computer and any new program you open. WebEx becomes a blue ribbon at the top of your screen, where you can choose to open panels or stop sharing. Please note that if you open any panels, it will obscure the participant's vision of your screen, as these will show up as ambiguous checkered boxes. Application allows you to share a currently running program on your computer, and this will share them exclusively. Any other applications will be displayed as a checkered box for participants, so be careful not to bring up anything you haven't shared. It's best to have the presenters close any applications they don't need prior to the start of the session. In that case, you could always do a My Desktop share. But if you'd like to share one or more applications at a time, you can always select Application here, and then add additional programs running on your computer by selecting them from the blue ribbon that appears at the top of your screen. Web Browser will launch a screen share in your default internet browser. However, the starting page is very basic, and it is much better to have your internet browser open on the page you want to share, and choose My Desktop or Application to share it. My Session window shares your view of WebEx with everyone. This is very helpful during training sessions, or if you need to help a presenter with something during the practice session. For instance, helping them switch between webcams or audio devices. However, it is not normally used during live sessions as it creates an awkward experience for attendees, and also might display private chats sent to the presenter. All of these screen shares should be thought of as visual only. Audio is not set up to automatically stream. It also takes a reasonable amount of internet bandwidth to screen share, so sharing animations or motion videos could create delays for your participants. With screen sharing, there's also certain space that's normally lost during the share because people have different resolutions on their monitors. Because of this, your recordings will be different. And so it's good to keep in mind that unless you have to, you may prefer to load the content into WebEx instead of screen sharing. Now let's talk about uploading files to WebEx. If you're the presenter, you see File, including video. Other panelists can upload files to be used in the session, but not video. With video, the file is actually streamed from the presenter's computer out to the participants. This means that it is very important to have both good internet and an optimized video file, meaning the video shouldn't be too large. MP4s are recommended video files because they are a universal format. Once the video is added, you will see a new tab at the top, and you can click on this to move to your video. When playing a video, it is important to do a couple things. First, anyone sharing a webcam should turn it off during the video and also mute themselves. Second, you will want to let attendees know that video audio will only stream through their computer speakers, even if they are connected via telephone. And remember, since the video is streaming from the active presenter's computer, once the ball is passed, the video disappears. Sometimes the host will have the best internet and decide to share the video for the presenter, temporarily taking the ball and then returning it after the video. Presenters and panelists can share slides and other documents into the session. In most cases, it is best to share slides and not Word, PDF, or Excel files. This is because slide decks come in static and fully visible, whereas other files might require scrolling. If scrolling is required, it will not follow the presenter's scrolling. Therefore, attendees will need to scroll for themselves, and it is not advised for the presenter to screen share their WebEx window to do this. Instead, you can use slide decks. With slides, you can use either a standard 4x3 slide deck, which looks like this, or you can use a 16:9 widescreen slide deck, like this one here. To move through the slides, you can use the small arrows at the top. Every time the presenter changes slides, everyone is moved to the slide the presenter is on. Remember, attendees by default cannot change slides or tabs, and it's helpful to request that your panelists not change slides or tabs either. Since the presenter is the person that everyone follows, that is the person that the recording follows. Even if the host, who's not the current presenter, advances a slide, no one moves with the host, and the recording remains on the presenter's slide. So again, when the presenter moves between tabs or changes content within a tab, the attendees follow along with the presenter automatically. Once you've loaded your slides, the presenter or other panelists can display the thumbnails by choosing View and then Thumbnails. You can select a thumbnail from the list to jump to a specific slide, or you can use this to highlight a slide, and then you can always use your up and down arrow keys to move between the slides instead of your mouse. The thumbnail view, when active, will not be shown to your attendees. One important note about this view is that each time the presenter ball is passed, it will close. So if the thumbnails are of interest and the ball is being passed in your program, you can remind the presenters that they'll need to reopen it. Sharing Whiteboard gives you a blank white page that can be used for annotations. Note that annotations can also be used on slides and documents. Multimedia is only available to the host and opens a small panel on the right. This panel loads a unique web page that gives all participants their own separate instance of it, meaning that they could each complete something on a web page or view a video in their own time. However, this feature is rather awkward and not recommended without careful testing to ensure it would be of value to your presentation. Remote computer is unavailable and relates to using a special program to access and screen share from another computer. To record the session, make sure you are the host. As the host, you will find the Recorder tab at the top right, which will reveal the recording panel. Once you've started the recording, you'll get a confirmation that the session is being recorded at the bottom left. You are then given the option to pause or stop the recording. It is recommended not to pause during your programs, as it can be easy to forget to unpause. If you do end up stopping the recording, you can always start another one. Each recording for the session will be displayed in your View Archives area in iCohere around 1 to 2 hours after you've ended your session. If you close the session and forget to stop, the recording will still be saved. At the beginning of your session, you might want to set up rotating slides. You can always load in a special slide deck for this purpose. Let's use this one that we already have. To automatically advance pages, choose the View menu at the top and then Automatically Advance Pages. You can then specify how long you'd like between intervals. We're almost finished, but let's confirm an important feature for hosting your sessions. If for some reason you disconnect as the host, WebEx will know that you didn't mean to close the session, and so it remains open with the host role passing to another participant, normally the active presenter. Using the 6-digit host key from inside of your iCohere site, you can return to the meeting as an attendee or panelist, and then choose Participant at the top menu. The bottom option displays Reclaim Host Role when you are not the host. Input the number and click OK to instantly be made the host again. The recording will be saved and will have continued during your absence. When you reclaim the host role, you will be taken off mute, but you can quickly remute yourself. When you're ready to close your session for real, you can click the X at the top and then confirm when you get the prompt. This will end the session for all of your attendees. Thanks for joining us for this overview of WebEx Training Center and iCohere.